Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 705 of Longbox Heroes, the Lamborghini of comic book podcasts. Joe and Todd here. Todd, hello. How are you?
I'm doing great. Fully energized, ready to do a show.
Wasn't building any forts at all, or
at all. No pillow forts, no sheet forts, no forts.
Exactly.
No Forts of July, whatever.
So it's so weird, you know, obviously we alternate who does the opening, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And even though we do it, I do it every other week. Every time I do it, it feels like it's been forever since I did the opening of the show.
And every time I do it, it feels like I'm always doing the opening.
Right. So again, okay, so we're having a similar experience with this, just the other sides of it, you know?
Right, yep. I'm like, oh, is it me again? I have to write up a witty opening, a very witty opening, which everybody expects from me.
Right.
And I do it, and I nail it every time. One take, Todd. And I don't know, it just feels like I'm always doing it.
Well, again, I don't have any witty rejoinders other than just what's going on in my mind and what's going on in the show this week.
Ooh.
We have Dynamite getting a lucrative Hollywood license just in time for its anniversary, which makes me feel super old. The return to prominence, question mark, of a top 10, question mark, comic company.
Yep.
And the soft drink multimedia crossover, the likes of which we haven't seen since the Mountain Dew Pitch Black match at Royal Rumble last year.
Well, I still have two in my fridge.
We'll get, you know what, I'll throw it in here. So Mountain Dew did a gimmick with the Eclipse this past week. What a bust that Eclipse was, huh? All hype, anyway.
Right.
So they do a gimmick where they're like, hey, take a picture of what your area looks like, tag us in it, and we're going to give you like 2 exclusive like Mountain Dew Pitch Black things, right?
Right. 2 of them?
Because of how overcast it was, where I am, you couldn't see the eclipse at all, right?
Right.
So I'm like, I can't just send this in. I'll be made a loser.
Yeah.
You know, but
if I won, I was going to give it to Brett so he could wash down his Campbell's soup with it.
What a combo.
Right.
And we have maybe the biggest Rob watch in quite some time.
It's a big pile for the Rob.
Oh, my goodness. We have conventions this weekend, and it's a busy weekend for conventions. We have my walk down Lois Lane, where Lois finds out Superman's real identity. Or does she?
Mm-hmm.
What we read last week, which was Traveling to Mars, issue 11, which was the finale, and Red Coat number 1, which is the beginning. What we're looking forward to this week, the triumphant return of Todd's Art Attack.
Yeah.
Todd and Joe have issues where we're reading Gail Simone's Secret Six with our little detour through Birds of Prey. And, of course, whatever else ends up coming up during the course of the show, as always, right?
Right.
So let's get right into it. It was announced this week that Dynamite has the license, and it says that they reclaimed the license because you forget that this is a license that has bounced back and forth between Dark Horse and Malibu and Dynamite and back to IDW and then back to Dark Horse and then back to Dynamite over the last 30 plus years. But Dynamite is doing something in conjunction with Terminator's upcoming 40th anniversary, which, again, I feel super old.
If you feel old, imagine me.
Yes. And this is interesting. I've noticed a lot more comic companies have been doing this, that they're doing a Kickstarter campaign to do some extra bonusy stuff. And I'm guessing this is just to gauge interest in what the property is going to bring and so forth. I think the Kickstarter, it says here, it's already started. But like their link, the link that's in here is, let me look here.
And while you're looking at it,
go ahead.
Take your word for it, because I only ever remember Terminator being a Dark Horse, man. That's it.
No, and I even forgot when I forgot Now Comics. It was at Now Comics as well.
Wow. Terminator got around, man.
Yeah. So here's, and again, if we're going to go into it, we're going to go into it. So now had the license from 88 to 90.
Okay, don't even remember that.
Okay. Dark Horse had it from 90 to 95. In the middle of that, Marvel did the adaptation of the Terminator 2 movie. Mm-hmm. Okay. Then in 1995, Dark Horse kept the license. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But Malibu specifically got the license to do Terminator 2 comics.
Okay.
And in 2003, Beckett got the license to do Terminator 3 comics.
Oh, boy, that's a convoluted rights right there.
Okay. So then in 2003, Malibu, the rights for for Terminator 2 went to Apple. Then Dynamite picked it all up from 2007 to 2010. IDW had it from 2010 to 2020, but that was just for the movie side of things. And Dark Horse had it from 2010 to 2019 to do non-crossover comics.
Wow. And Joe, you remember all those classic Terminator comics that we read over the years with all these companies? I never read one of them.
I may have read a Terminator RoboCop.
Of course you did.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm not seeing, because I went to their little backer kit thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's right. They're kickstarting it
for the Kickstarter, and it just says it started already, but then I can't find it on Kickstarter.
Okay. Skynet took it down.
Maybe. So they're just doing new print right now. They're just doing anniversary printings. And again, I said Kickstarter. It's through something called Backer Kit, whatever that is.
Right. One of the many that are out there now.
Right. And again, I think it's been live for a day.
Mm-hmm.
And they're already at $95,000 of their $25,000 goal.
There you go. Joe, I'm thinking about starting a crowdfunding company.
Yeah.
Calling it Opportunity. It's a big opportunity.
Don't make any bones about it. You know exactly what it is. Everything's just an opportunity.
That's right. It does what it says on the tin, Joe.
Yeah. Well, good luck if you're a Terminator fan. If you're a fan of that universe, Dynamite looks to be doing something interesting with it at the very least. So it's back. Mm-hmm. Dynamite. Speaking of things that are back, after an almost 4-year hiatus of publishing sometimes one comic book a month,
right?
It's time for the resurgence of the Valiant universe.
Ooh.
It's not going to be an immediate rollout, but between now as we speak and September, they are going to be re-rolling out all of their properties. They're big properties. Your Exo Man-O-Wars, your Ninjaks, your Eternal Warriors, your Bloodshots, your everything else like that. It looks like it's going to be a mini-series, a series of one-shots, and then come May, it's going to be a bunch of different one-shots that are going on until we hit where we're looking September, where the Resurgence of the Valiant Universe miniseries comes out, right. And that's going to kick everything off in full.
Right. I saw this and I was like, I got to send this off to Joe. This is interesting. The only thing I have to say is there's no Quantum and Woody.
And I'm out. Right,
I'm out. The only thing that I can hope is that all the money from this resurgence of Valiant is going to go straight to the coffers for that Chinese Quantum and Woody movie that we're supposed to be getting from the Russo brothers.
Yes. But they have some big name creators on this. Fred Van Lente, Beckie Cloonan, a bunch of other folks. It looks like they have things organized. Now, again, I don't know. They've been going through a lot of ownership changes. You mentioned right before the pandemic, there was that company that was going to roll essentially what this is out. to launch like the Valiant cinematic universe.
Right.
So hopefully it's one of those things where the time off during the pandemic allowed them to readjust and replan and regroup and everything, and to roll out like some sort of plan. You know, but if you're a fan of these characters, and you know, we talk about it all the time on Previewing the Past, where like I'm aware of all these characters are, you know, we even tried the Exo Manowar book early on because Robert Venditti was writing it, and it was really good.
Yeah.
And then it was just one of those things where, like, I don't know, it just kept falling to the bottom of the pile, whatever. And then when they slowed down their publishing schedule to almost like a crawl, if nothing, it didn't fill me with a lot of hope, but this fills me in hope. You know, I don't want to see any of these properties, any of these licenses, any of these companies. You know, more companies there are, more properties there are, there's more work for everybody in the comic book industry. And, you know, hopefully everyone's putting out good work, and hopefully this is the resurgence of the Valiant universe. And come 2025, it's like the biggest thing in the world.
Right. Call Jim Shooter, get him on the blower.
Yeah. I don't know if he's taking calls. Who knows, you know?
Right.
Last but not least, though, is the crossover that I could get behind. It is something called Assemble the Marvel Universe, which is going to feature 38 different Marvel characters on Coke cans, and you can use AR technology to, quote, bring them to life. And this just takes me back to the days of the late 80s, early 90s, where all the different soda companies had the collectible can craze.
Right. And the thing that really jumped out at me, like, forget the AI, like, whatever, the augmented thing. The fact that all these, or at least the ones that I have seen, are illustrations and not the, like, actors. And they're in the costumes that are, like, more comic book accurate than the thing. I love this. When I saw it, I'm like, oh, so it's not Josh Brolin in the Thanos outfit, or it's not Charlie Cox in the Daredevil outfit. It's now, granted, it's not Frank Miller art, but it's like, okay, I just love that, and I think that's absolutely fantastic. Now, if DC would just get in bed with Pepsi, I'd be happy. Give me my Jonah Hex Pepsi can. Yeah,
get in bed with RC Cola.
Oh, that's the second best soda company.
But I'm kind of sad about this because, you know, I gave up soda for a little bit in hopes to lose a little bit of the weight. You know, I didn't drink like some people did this weekend, but I had like a soda this weekend for a Coke Zero for the first time in a long time. I'm not a soda can collector. I have enough junk in my house, right? But you know, it's like, and it's not like it's not all heavy hitters, you know, it's
right.
You know, like it's Moon Knight, it's Negasonic Teenage Warhead, it's Groot, it's Rocket on separate cans, it's Shang-Chi, it's granted people that have been in movies,
right?
But I'll you know, they could have all just been Spider-Man.
Right. Take away Moon Knight, and I forget who the other one you said was.
Negasonic Teenage Warhead.
No, I won't say that one. It was Shang-Chi.
Yes.
Shang-Chi. Those weren't big hits, but she was in a $1 billion movie with Deadpool. So at least, that's something.
But like I said, it's an interesting mix because, like we said, those characters, who's not on any of these cans? Spidey.
That's because he's, universally loved. Or no, wait, is it Universal that has him, or? Well,
no, I'm trying to think if there's like none of the Fantastic Four, no Doctor Doom. So I think it's, but then like
Storm's on one of them.
Yeah, Storm's on them. Deadpool's on them. Like X people are on them, but like haven't X people kind of sort of been folded back in?
Right. Well, with Deadpool coming up this year,
yeah,
I think that makes more sense. I think they're holding off on anything FF for a little further down the line. You know what I mean? Like, you don't prime that pump just yet.
Gotcha. Yeah, if it was a Spidey can, I probably could have been convinced to get a Spidey can, but there's not, so I'm not.
Right. There's no character that I want. Like, if there's a Doctor Doom Sprite can, oh yeah, because that would be green work.
Ask not for whom the Rob trolls. The Rob trolls for thee. And now, the Rob Watch.
So, Todd, it's time.
Yep.
So, we got actual news when it comes to the Rob. As it was announced this week that the Rob is going to be releasing a tell-all memoir next year entitled Robservations.
Ooh, good title.
The book is also going to include 10 original illustrations and insider insights.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I will say this, got the big push, got the big publicity thing, the whole deal in regards to this. So the book doesn't appear to be coming out by a publisher that I've heard of.
Right.
And again, it's through Ben Bella Publishing. And again, I'll say I'm not familiar with them. It's not Simon & Schuster. It's not Penguin. It's not any of those sort of things like that. And it's not a discouragement or a knock on them, but they're a relatively new publisher. And as a semi-avid listener to the Rob's podcast, I know the Rob always likes to, and again, this is a family-friendly show, but take the pee, if you will, out of, some of the other folks that have done history, specifically the Sean Howe History of Marvel Comics book that came out a couple years back.
Right.
And, that book really gets under Rob's skin. The fact that book exists,
Wait a minute. Something gets under Rob's skin? Very thick skin?
Yeah. Now, I have a feeling that this book is just going to be somebody going through all the episodes of the Rob's podcast and putting them into a book form.
Right.
And I'll say this. I've got I've got over half the episodes already done like that.
Okay.
So if Rob's listening, shoot me a line. I'll clean it up a little bit to make it a little bit more friendly to you.
So it passes the smell test?
Yeah. But that's not all. So the Rob, this happened and the Rob had a week, right?
I just want to ask though, if this book does come out, is this going to fall under Rob's recaps?
Well, I'm going to wait for the
chapter.
I'm going to wait for the books on tape version of it.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. The Rob just sniffs into the microphone for 2 minutes, 20 minutes each chapter.
Mm-hmm. What? So this announcement comes out on a Friday, and the Rob has had a week since, and it's only been since Friday. Okay. So Sunday, this is from the Rob's Facebook group. I was doing my Todd impression last night, and a viewer came in on the Whatnot and was irate, saying I was making fun of handicapped people. Those who were there saw it happen live. So weird. Not discounting it was a troll looking for a new angle. Now, I've said many times here on this very show that the Rob's podcast, or the Rob's impression of Todd McFarlane, is very insulting.
Mm-hmm.
And borderline offensive.
Right.
And if you're not familiar with the Rob, and especially if you watch the Rob do it and the faces he makes while he does it.
Right, with the eyes closed.
I could see why someone who's not a Rob understander could maybe not understand what Rob's doing here, right?
Right.
So that was Sunday. So then Monday, Rob puts up, now this post has been deleted since, but this is me, right? Hey all, in the spirit of keeping our vibes up and positive, keep that in mind, Todd. We're going to come back to that.
Got it. Mental note.
I'd kindly ask the 82 folks here that are also part of the Rob Rip Me Off group to go ahead and exit on your own. Or exit that group. These anti-groups can be ugly and dismissive. Maybe your curiosity is satiated. Now you could put down meaningful real estate in one but not both. Thank you. So the Rob then updates the post, adding changing the number from 82 to more. and says, please do not mistake this for anything other. Now, bear in mind, that's a sentence, and every word of that sentence was capital. Every word of that sentence was capitalized. Right. Than my own competitive nature. The guy behind this received full refunds in all caps, but it's not enough. So seeing the numbers drop is satisfying. So many are shocked that they are on the list, and from an anonymous member, we see how it's happening. The number went from 82 to 156. Apparently, what happens is somebody can invite you to the group, and you show up as a member of the group until you decline the invite.
Okay.
The Rob says, this group is treated as a clubhouse. We hang out and enjoy each other's company. We work really hard to keep it positive.
Yep.
I'm going to come back to that here, too. Treat us as you would if we were hanging in real life. What are you even doing over there? Is it productive? These anti-groups can be ugly and divisive. Maybe, and then he repeats the, whatever. And then he says, we'll give it a few more hours. Now, I'm not in that group. I never bought anything directly from the Rob, so I've never been ripped off by the Rob.
Right.
But I assume that if there's a Facebook page about the number of people that you ripped off, you might have ripped off a few people.
Right. But the one guy I gave a refund makes it all okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's if he did. I mean, I like to see the receipts, but go ahead.
I'd like to see those receipts, too. The Rob who claims to have the receipts. So I get it. You don't want people... But the Rob does a really good job of himself, of anyone who casts the slightest bit of doubt on his work or whatever, of booting them from the group.
Right.
But there's a lot of silent members of both groups, maybe, that just kind of like, maybe want to watch both sides of the fence to see how everything goes.
I want to be educated, Joe.
Right. I want to have the full story. I don't want just one person to tell me how the story went. Let me find out how both people told me how the story went, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And did you see the guy who posted in the Rob group, like he posted his critique of a Rob comic?
We talked about that last week. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. My mistake. Sorry.
Yeah. And it was this whole big long thing about like, I've spent all this money. I bought 3 copies of the variant. I've been a lifelong fan. I may not always follow your layouts, but I love your art and everything else like that. And the Rob was like hyper fixated that the guy did not love his layouts.
Yeah, he was like, "Oh, you should go and learn about layouts." And I don't know, but this one was the YouTube video, right?
No, okay. So the YouTube video got deleted.
Yep.
The YouTube video got deleted as a hate video.
Yep, and he wasn't even. He was like, "I like your work. I do this," and he goes down and he basically goes, "This is the one page I don't understand of the layouts, and here's why." And Rob went off his rocker, man. I'm like, they can't even critique. Like, and he wasn't insulting. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, woof.
So today, the new episode of the Rob's podcast came out, and I didn't get a chance to listen to it. I pick and choose. I'm a little backlogged on stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he puts it up in the Facebook group, and he says, new Robservations. What do these 4 Marvel comics have in common? And it's X-Men 100, it's Captain America 200, Avengers 150, and Thor 250.
Oh, those are all like, what do you call them, issues? You know what I mean? Centennial issues and stuff like that.
Now, Todd, you would think that, right?
Right.
And a bunch of people guessed. They're all 25-cent books. They're all Marvel books. They're all bicentennial books. They're anniversary issues.
Anniversary, that's the word I couldn't come up with.
But Todd, as someone who rips the raw audio of most podcasts from an RSS feed,
mm-hmm.
I know that these are all comic books that are prominently featured in the film Dazed and Confused.
Okay.
Now, nobody's guessed that yet in the group. I could certainly put that in there.
Right.
But I might get a reply like this from the Rob. Nope. Maybe listen and increase knowledge.
Yep. So condescending.
And again, let me go back again and read his previous post. Let me just read a few key things from that. In the spirit of keeping our vibes up and positive, We work real hard here to keep it positive. I know there's this one guy, though, in the comments all the time who's super negative. They should really boot him from the group.
Right. Very condescending.
Very condescending.
Joe, these fingers, these fat typing fingers, I saw that. And I started typing for a hot second, Joe, because he gets in my brain and I go nuts. And I almost went, yes, that may not be it. But, two things can be true. You know what I mean?
But not the thing that you want it to be.
It's not the thing that you want. But can you guess what they're right. They are right. Those are this or those are that also. But no, you can't answer. Yeah, they do have that in common, but that's not it. You know what I mean? Listen to the show and you'll see, there's a way to do it without, this is the good show, crapping on your fans. You know what I mean? I don't know. That just had me hot. I was like, that's just super, super, just ignorant as far as I'm concerned to put it out there like that.
Todd, again, I'm going to say, it's all in the spirit of keeping vibes up and positive.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this is all about.
Why don't you type that in, Rob? I thought we were supposed to keep it positive here.
No, I did just reply dazed and confused to see if I get a reply.
I wonder if he's awake.
If I get the Rob No prize.
Oh, look! Did you? And I didn't even listen to your crappy show.
Where's my milkshake review?
Oh my God! Any day now.
Yes, but enough about the Rob. It's a busy weekend for conventions, no matter where you be, right?
Right.
We have right in our own neck of the woods, we have the Lehigh Valley Comic Con. We got a good mix of creators there. Jim Valiant, who we talked about on the Patreon show this past week. Bob Budiansky, Jim Californi, Franco of Art and Franco. Franco actually has a Kickstarter that's ending here in a couple days for a collectible card game sort of thing that he did the art for. It's pretty neat. Tom Rainey, Lee Weeks, those are all going to be some local folks. We have the Fan Expo Cleveland. We got Frank Cho, Stephen Platt, or some people call him Splat. I don't. Right. Yannick Paquette, Kevin McGuire are going to be at that one.
Right.
We have the Big Lick Comic Con in Virginia.
Who's going to be there?
Louise Simonson and Walt Simonson are going to be there. Christopher Priest is going to be there. Jeff Parker is going to be there. And if you have any dolls that need to be signed, like a big rubber guy or something,
right?
You could bring your Hacksaw Jim Dugan.
Okay.
Your Made in the USA Total Package Lex Luger. And your Big Papa Pump Scott Steiner.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
May Fig Daddy Cool bless all those signings, Joe.
Yes. And then in Alabama is the Huntsville Comic and Pop Culture Expo.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Claremont's going to be there. James O'Barr is going to be there. George Takei is going to be there.
Oh, my.
And Orange Cassidy is going to be there.
Hey, I know him.
Hey, I know him, too.
I saw him drink water in a tent once.
Don't you have the chair he sat in on your porch?
That is the chair that Adam co-hosts Porch Talk in. The only thing I didn't do is get it signed with the orange marker you guys brought. But I was afraid it'd rub off on Adam's shirt when he sat in it.
Well, if you listen to After Dark this week, you're going to hear a celebrity endorsement for Porch Talk.
Oh, I hear it's the best.
But thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Hey, all the links to these conventions are going to be in the show notes. I'm wrapping up the show. I don't know what I'm doing.
I'm fine with that.
So all the links to all these conventions are going to be the show notes, along with information about Soon to Be Named Network at soon-to-be-named-network.com, soon-to-be-named-network.tumblr.com. Anytime any of the shows go live, of course, you could certainly find them at whatever RSS feed you're using, not Google Podcasts anymore. Thanks a lot, Adam. Whatever website that these individual shows have set up. And, of course, one-stop shop for all of the shows. That is soon-to-be-named-network.com. That includes this show, of course, Longbox Heroes After Dark, We Need Wrestling, Final Wrestling Place, At Odds with Wrestling, Puzzle Warriors 3, Profane Arguments, Wings on Wings, the aforementioned Porch Talk, and I have a line on the unreleased Hayabusa episode.
Line being the word.
And it's a couple lines, maybe. And I had to grease the wheels with a little bath matter, if you will. But Ed allegedly is working on a new project. And if and when that becomes a reality, you'll be able to find it at soon-to-be-named-network.com. And anytime any of the folks on the network go on other shows and they'll let me know, we'll make sure that you could find it as well. Be sure to check out some of our other friends and the stuff that they're up to in and around the world of comics. Our friend Mike Sterling, West Coast retailer extraordinaire, his blog over at progressiveruin.com. Our friend Kevin, his blog over at helionsteam.com. The Chop Shop, Rick Williams' store of all the little resin and glow-in-the-dark and stickers and the sci-fi wrestling space that he does over at freekaratechops.storeenvy.com. Jason Sandberg's Jupiter is available over on his Indiegogo, still available. Hopefully we get an announcement about the second issue continuation of the series anytime soon. Chris runs Battle Monsters over at his site, fortressofcomicnews.com. Our friend Davey of the band Cave People, he has his site, cavedomaincomics.com. Digital editions of Mending and Keeper are available. I think there's a few print copies. I know last week we said there was like less than 15 available. Let's sell those out. Let's help out burgeoning artists in the creative independent space. And of course, if you do not have a comic book store in your area, or you do not have a good comic book store in your area, let our store be your store. Comics on the Green. I have the Facebook page linked up. Whenever the new arrivals are in, Dave and the gang will let you know there. Whenever the final order cutoffs are for any of the latest and greatest new books coming out, they'll let you know there. And whenever a bindle of mint Silver Age comic key issues appear on Dave's doorstep, they'll let you know there as well.
Right.
And now it's time to turn things over to our good friend Beckie for my walk down Lois Lane.
Welcome back to my walk down Lois Lane. We're going to go back to issue number 59 from 1965. Besides Lois Lane home-wrecking Superman's parents and framing Lana for murdering Superman because she forgot a glass of milk, there's one more story I want to cover, because it's a classic, so let's dive in. Lois Lane is scuba diving in a lake to find a watertight box full of jewels, because why have the police solve crimes in Metropolis when she gets a stomach cramp and starts to pass out? Superman saves her, but as she's faking being unconscious, she decides to sneak a peek at who Superman really is. She sees him take off a rubber mask and a costume to reveal Bruce Wayne. Yeah, Bruce Wayne. He drives off and Lois is excited because not only is he super, he's super rich. Batman is acting as Superman while Clark is off-world. He's given Bruce some fun gadgets to help him fly and do Superman things. Superman also told Bruce to help out Lois because, you know, she's Lois, and he admits she's very cute, but too much trouble for his liking. Lois decides she's going to marry Bruce Wayne, and when he reveals he's Superman, she's going to pretend to be shocked, so she drives to Gotham to interview him for a story. She pretends she's writing about his businesses, classic move, and while he's answering the phone, she snoops around and finds his Batman costume just hanging in a closet. Where is Alfred to prevent this? While showing her his large pile of coal that only rich men like himself can afford, Batman still has some of the jewels in his pocket from busting heads. He drops one, so he pretends jewels just litter the floor of his mansion and gifts it to Lois. Pretending, you know, he found it on the ground. She thinks he probably just crushed a piece of coal into a diamond, and she's smarter than he is, and she's definitely onto him. They begin to date, but again, only because she thinks he's Superman, and he thinks this way she can't get into trouble. They foil thieves together, and Bruce continues to dress as Superman, but in a move we all see coming. Bruce finds out that Lois is only interested in him because he may have powers, so he decides she needs a hard lesson in being boy crazy. He asks her to marry him, and she agrees, not taking a second to think about Superman never proposing to her before, ever, but you know, when you're in love. Wedding day appears, and Lois has walked down the aisle to Bruce. As she's about to say vows, the real Superman shows up, and Lois freaks out. She pulls Bruce aside and asks him to explain. He says that day at the lake, Superman gave him his costume as part of a $50,000 charity event. When Lois points out she's seen a Batman costume in his closet, he quickly answers, and I quote, I did the same thing with Batman, don't tell anyone. Lois feels bad she tricked Bruce and apologizes, but she can't marry him and runs off in tears. The issue ends with Superman and Batman laughing and congratulating each other over tricking Lois. So, if you are one of the non-existing Lois and Bruce fans who pair them together, fear not. There is an issue where Lois marries Batman. It is issue 89 from 1969. The cover has Superman upset as he stands in for Best Man at the wedding. Tune in next week and I'll tell you all about it.
Thank you very much, Beckie. Of course, a little bit of a teaser there for next week's Lois Lane, thematic from this week to last.
Right, a follow-up, if you will.
Yes. And so this is one of the few stories that I think has permeated into some sort of pop culture.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe I'm mixing it up with a previous My Walk Down Lois Lane where Bruce Wayne was posing as Superman and then Lois found out that he was Batman as well. And it was a whole thing about a charity auction.
No, well, maybe, because wasn't that his excuse in this one too?
No, because this one wasn't it was that he just asked him by the it was because Superman had to leave.
Right. No, at the end the excuse was when it's all over that he tells Lois it was all for a charity auction. I borrowed the costume.
Okay, that's right. So this one I think has permeated a little bit of pop culture, just of how ridiculous it is.
Yeah. I will say this as I was listening to her explanation, and the rich man just has, like, he's just showing off piles of coal, Joe, which is fantastic, by the way. But my family being in the quarry business that we stole,
right?
That they were in the, like, a little bit in the coal business. There's no dirtier, pun intended, business I've ever seen than the coal business, and that made me laugh so hard just for myself. Everybody I've ever dealt with in the coal business is a dirtbag. Listen, they had their own ton to screw people. The coal ton is 2,240 pounds, and they go, that's so that if there's any contaminants in them, like if there's rock or anything in there, it kind of evens things out. So they give a bigger ton, and sell that for an inflated price. I'm like, oh, this is so screwy. And I love that he's like showing off his coal piles because he's a dirtbag coal baron. I'll tell the stories on After Dark sometime.
All right. So thank you again, Beckie, very much. Looking forward to next week, more Lois and Batman, mixing it up.
Right.
So let's get into what we read from this past week. Todd, where would you like to begin?
I would like to start with the book we were looking forward to most, which was the finale of Traveling to Mars, written by Mark Russell, art by Roberto Melli. Roy Livingston, as we've followed along, he's on Mars for the last, day of his life. He says, he's only has so much oxygen left because he's there to, he was there to get the bounty of energy that was there to save mankind. But through it all, there's nothing there. The messages sent back were by the rovers that were left behind there so they can meet their creator and ask them, ask them questions. So he's decided to give them a speech, and as their representative of creation, their creator. So he's basically the god, they're the man, and he ends up giving, I don't want to give much away because he gives a great speech for like a common man, and I absolutely love it from the part where he starts with, like, you have to give the complimentary lie. And as we do this, Joe, I love doing this podcast with you. So there's that one. But then he lays it out and he's like, but then comes the uncomfortable truth afterwards. But in the end, he gives them great advice. Actually, something I think a human would want to hear from our creator if, we heard something. And he goes through it all, and through a series of events, he warns them of, people are coming, I free you, but do not talk to my people ever again because it's not going to go well for you. And he proceeds to write his memoirs, and like the biblical writings of like the Bible and stuff over. He puts it in a cave. Like so many allegories like that. It's absolutely amazing. And the speech he kind of gives at the end, after giving the Rovers the one gift that he could give them that they didn't have before, which is absolutely brilliant. He sits down and he waits for his final moments, and he like lays it out like what you could only hope for in this universe. And I know I'm running all around because I don't want to like ruin all this, but it was very touching. I did not think that like maybe he could stick the landing because I did not know how someone could end the story, but I think he ended it perfectly, decisively, and it was amazing. And this is one of my favorite books of the last year and a half.
Yes, I agree with a lot of the sentiments that you made, and I'm going to do my best to be spoiler free on this as well. Right. Mm-hmm. Except for, I guess, one part. And again, it's a small part, and it's just the part where he knows his time is up. Does Roy, right?
Right.
But he remembers that he's not going to be the last person here. And that's what prompts him to give the speech to all the other rovers and robots and everything else that's on Mars, because once he got there, he sent the signal back, and there's mining ships and extraction vessels that are on their way there. Now, again, we talk about this book intermittently because of the publishing schedule of this, and just as an FYI, this book just came out this past week. The original solicitation date for this was the 3rd week of October.
I remember, anyway,
yes. So, as we had discussed maybe like 2 times ago when we brought this book up, is that there are no materials or minerals or anything on Mars. It was a wild goose chase. Mm-hmm. The rovers sent signals back there in the hopes that that's what the humans essentially wanted to hear, not thinking that they would send someone there to extract them. And that's exactly what they did. As much as I like the speech, I liked that as Roy is giving the speech, he's mentioning people like Lincoln and Julius Caesar and even Jesus Christ, speaking to, quote unquote, their people. Mm-hmm. And this may have been the heroic moment in this comic book that really doesn't have like heroes and villains. But this may have been that heroic moment that Roy needed in a life that he felt was unfulfilled or undelivered, that he was a failure in life. Mm-hmm. But being that he gets to be the spokesperson for the company, the human race, the whatever it is a big moment for him, and it really resonates with everything else that kind of built up in the rest of the book. There's a bit with his hat that I got a kick out of. Yeah. Again, no spoilers. But in his final moments, after delivering the speech, with what Roy gets to witness, and kind of everything that you said, and again, I'm going to try to be as non-spoiler as possible, but it was the best ending that a non-ending can be.
I'll take that, but yeah, and like okay. I agree with you on the hero bit, because not only does he get to help the rovers, but he gets to fix his biggest regret too.
Yes.
So it comes full. It's like, I've helped you, I've helped me, and like some of the advice that he gives to the rovers, or like, and like talking in his head, will stick with me. Like when he says like there's many miracles out there, we just ignore them. You know what I mean? Like, and there's other stuff, and I'm like, this is just so poignant and beautiful. And I'm really going to miss Roy, man. I'm going to miss this book, but the journey, we got there. I may be putting on this on the side to give to Brett. You know what I mean? Ooh. I really like this.
But yeah, like I said, we talked about it last week. The trade of it is going to be in stores the end of next month. So, if you've listened to us talk about it, you want to check it out. The full 11 issue trade is going to be out the end of next month. Go to your comic store, tell them to put one on the side for you, tell them to order it. I'm sure they can order it. Let's sell it out,
Yep.
Yeah.
And as one book ends, Joe, another begins.
Okay. So last week was Ghost Machine week, as 3 of the big Ghost Machine launch books from Jeff Johns' creator imprint over at Image dropped. Bunch of stuff primarily written by Jeff Johns. Some of the later stuff looks to be written by other folks. But it's Jeff Johns and some of the biggest artists in comics, and a lot of them gave up like exclusives at DC and Marvel to go work for Jeff Johns, which is, pretty crazy. The one that we'll be talking about here is Red Coat #1, written by Jeff Johns with art by Brian Hitch. And we have to kind of give the premise of the book and like not so much a spoiler a bit, but it's a guy who got shipped over to be part of the British during the Revolutionary War. And he stumbles upon a ritual that is to be giving someone eternal life. And I don't want to spoil who that is.
Right.
And he accidentally interrupts the whole thing, and whatever the spell was, whatever the incantation was, instead of going to this very famous person from the Revolutionary era, it goes into this guy who's just a guy. He doesn't want to be there. He does everything that he can avoid any sort of war. He's a bit of a scoundrel, if you will, and it gives him eternal life. And we are going to get stories of his adventures throughout all sorts of time. The solicitation tells you who some of the folks that he's going to be interacting with from history, even giving away one of the folks that gets spoiled at the end of this issue. But it's very Hellblazer John Constantine.
If I was going to take some things, I said it's very Jack Sparrow meets Highlander with a smidge of, at the time, like Jonah Hex, because he has the uniform nobody wants to be seen in.
Yeah.
At the time, and I absolutely think that's like the mashup with a bit of the magic of John Constantine. But I feel like he doesn't have that. He just wandered into it. But go on, if I don't want to interrupt you.
No, go ahead. I wasn't saying anything.
Oh, okay. But I love this book. This book spoke to me because, as you said, he's a bit of the scoundrel. He goes and he talks about the pros of being immortal, and then he's like, there's some downsides. I'm not going to give that away. He's like, this happens because of it, and I don't like it. And him going through and he's obviously telling the story from a more present day, because they show bits and pieces, and it shows I've run into a lot of people and it's always kind of the same. They're like, oh, you ran into some of my family member and I want to avenge them. They do that bit where it's 7 people over the course of years that do it. But he's just so charismatic in the book, but also such a bit of a dirtbag.
Yes.
That it's absolutely fantastic, and I love it. And it looks beautiful. There's a 2-page splash of him trying to get away from somebody, and he jumps out this window, and the red coat uniform is so stunning, it's so eye-catching that it's perfect for this book. And he's like, maybe I'm not the bravest man, he goes, but the only thing I can count on is that I can go on living. And he goes, and the phrase that sums Simon Pure, that's his name as far as I'm concerned, he goes, magnificent in retreat, am I not? And I'm like, that sums up the character. He's like, all for me, baby. I'm scoundrel front and center. Love this book. Brian Hitch's art is beautiful.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to this book for a long, long time.
Yeah, and Geiger was kind of, the book that Jeff Johns was doing to test the waters with. He did 2 different miniseries with it. He did a 2-parter earlier this year. That feels like it's going to be the flagship. And in the Ghost Machine one-shot that came out earlier this year, which was a preview of all the books that are coming out from Ghost Machine this year, it definitely it made you believe that Red Coat and Geiger are going to cross over at some point.
Somebody said there was a rumor that in the flashbacks, a la Valiant, that Redcoat was somewhere around. You know what I mean? Like maybe at Geiger's cookout, like in the early day, like before everything went sideways.
Okay.
I have to go back and look, but they said maybe Redcoat has appeared already.
Right. The idea of this is that this is going to be a much larger shared universe, that all these books are going to be interconnected or taking place in the same universe. But I think Redcoat and Geiger are the two that are going to be the closest united, and I enjoyed Geiger. And I echo a lot of Todd's sentiments, as he had mentioned. Brian Hitch is one of the greatest artists of our day and age. And, you know, him and Jeff Johns working on something in 2024, you know, whatever your opinion of their more recent work has been, this is definitely a return to old form for both of them.
Right. I'm going to say one other thing. I think the one that's going to also be as prominent as Geiger and Redcoat is Junkyard Joe.
Right.
I think at some point we're going to get a team up. You know what I mean? In the post-apocalyptic wasteland.
Have they announced another Junkyard Joe series?
I don't think so, but that don't mean nothing because they're slowly rolling the books out. Other than all on one day, the first three.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what we read from this past week. Let's get into what we're looking forward to coming out this week. If you head over to longboxheroes.com, every Tuesday we put up the poll post, which is a link to all the books that are coming out this week. Whether you get your books in print, whether you get them digitally, whether you get them sent to your home, however it is you get your books, be forewarned, be forearmed, know what's coming out this week. Todd and I attempt to guess what the other is most looking forward to coming out this week. We're currently tied at 10 guesses apiece. And I'm looking at your, say it with me, everyone, slender read of a list here, Todd.
Cutting back, baby.
And I as I was doing the post today, I was going to put in there, and I'll just say it on the show. Does anyone do y'all remember what the slender read is a reference to?
I know what it's from.
I know you know, but it's a Patreon thing. But anyway,
go listen to our old podcast and educate yourself.
Now, come on, Todd. We're trying to
keep it positive here.
A fostered environment of positivity and friendliness. Except for that one guy.
Right.
But I'm looking at your list, and I think the book that you're most looking forward to coming out this week is Action Comics 1064.
It is not.
Oh my goodness.
It is Green Lantern.
Yeah, Green Lantern number 10.
It is Green Lantern because I did not realize this too. This has nothing to do with it just yet, but it added when I found out that it's going to be a part of that Brainiac crossover.
Yes.
But the co-feature, not the backup, Joe, because we don't call them that.
Second feature is the Guy Gardner Lobo Kevin Maguire story. Is there I know there's a Guy Gardner variant cover. Is it a Kevin Maguire Guy Gardner variant cover?
I don't believe so, because I would have gotten the Iggy at our comic shop if there was.
Gotcha.
So I'm looking over your list. Is the book you're looking forward to most Action Comics 1064?
It is. It's the start of the Brainiac saga. It's a Superman event. They're sprinkling a little Superman dust on Green Lantern and one other book. I forget what the other book that they're sprinkling the dust on. That's like a loose part of the crossover, I guess.
I know. I don't think I get it. Yeah.
Right, but again, it's one of these things like I'm already getting Superman, I'm already getting Action Comics, I'm already getting Green Lantern. That's a tangential crossover, and I think there's like bookend books. There's like 2 bookend issues of the crossover.
Right, I think so.
And I'm like, I've been enjoying Superman. I'll enjoy this. I'm excited for this. It'll be fun. I like Superman. And if you don't like Superman, I don't know, maybe you suck or something.
I agree.
Yeah. So while you're over at longboxheroes.com, of course, be sure to check out all the other stuff that we're up to, whether it be past episodes of this show, past episodes of Longbox Heroes After Dark, or our current ongoing voyage in Todd and Joe Have Issues, as we are rereading all of Gail Simone's Secret Six and everything that kind of ties into it. That includes this little bit in Birds of Prey, which is wrapping up Gail's tenure on that book, as it's getting ready to launch her doing an ongoing Secret Six book. But this week, we will be discussing issue 105 of Birds of Prey.
Yes.
And as I mentioned in the little post, as we do this for the announcement of what book we're going to be doing this week, I love this cover so much. The purple and the green on this cover just pop so much. We talked last week about Nicola Scott art in this book, and it shines through on the cover here. Everybody's pulling a different face. You know exactly who and what every character is and can be, for the most part, just from looking at this cover. And the only thing that's missing from this cover is word balloons.
I know you love your word balloons.
Nothing better than a word balloon on a cover. Or like something ridiculous happening on a cover and the cover itself telling you, no, this really happens in the book.
Right, not an imaginary story.
Yes. So the book starts off with a extended story because our teams, Birds of Prey and Secret Six, are in Russia. And we get an extended retelling of Rasputin's origin.
Mm-hmm.
And we find out that one of the noblemen here that's being led down to a ritual is an indirect descendant of Rasputin. And this cult, these folks, are attempting to bring Rasputin back, harness Rasputin's power. Again, very unclear specifically what these folks are attempting to do, but obviously it involves with Ice being in the Rocket Red. Did we say last week that it was Ice of the JLI that was in the Rocket Red armor?
Yes, we did. That's the big reveal.
That's the big reveal at the end of the last issue. So folks get split up. Scandal is hot on the tail of the Birds of Prey who have the Rocket Red armor. The Secret Six car has been smashed up. But all Ragdoll cares about is that his tailored jacket has been ruined, even though he's got bones sticking out. That's much more important, right?
Right.
So obviously the Six need to catch up with the Birds. They're going to be hot on their tail. They have to call in for some ground support, I guess. But Knockout essentially says, like, I got dibs on Big Barda.
Mm-hmm.
So the Birds are trying to get away with their payload. Ice was seemingly alive, the Rocket Red armor and everything else like that. There's a page in this where Kate Spencer Manhunter is just kind of lounging in a third panel spread. What'd you call them?
That's just a panel, that one. Yeah. Don't worry.
And I miss Kate Spencer Manhunter. It was written by Mark Andreyko when it was being published by DC. We jokingly said before it got second featured into like a Batman book or something.
Yeah, I forget. Gotham Streets of Gotham?
Yeah, Streets of Gotham, I think. And that's like one of the most underrated books the last like 15 years. I love that book so much. So whenever I get to see Kate Spencer pop up again, it always makes me feel real happy.
I will only say I wish they didn't blow it on the cover. Yeah,
well, we got her in the last issue.
Did we? I don't remember, but all right.
She did show up briefly in the last issue. I'm glad who they did not blow on this cover was the sixth member of the Secret Six this month, or this adventure, is Harley Quinn.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. But Joe, I'm worried there's two like very weird, jokey freaks in the group now. We know that don't work out.
Well, again, Harley Quinn's a lady, and Ragdoll is who Ragdoll is, right?
And Harley's got plot armor, so...
Yeah, exactly. My kid told me what that means. I think people have explained it to me, and then my kid finally explained it to me in a way that makes sense.
Now, if you could just do gaslighting, you'll be fine.
Gaslighting, I've almost figured out. ASMR, I'll still never understand.
Okay.
So as this is going on, of course, Scandal is hot on the heels of the Birds. Hawk Girl swoops in and grabs Scandal off of the back of her motorcycle. And there is a fantastic fight where Scandal is being lifted off the motorcycle, hurled into the air, and she is still just swinging and takes out Hawk Girl and takes her off her feet, right?
Right. She gets armpitted, the way they carry people. Yeah. And she's like, no, like, just like, watch, I don't drop you. And she just clocks her right in the face, which is fantastic.
So, like so much to get over how much of a badass Scandal is, but also like a beautifully drawn sequence as well.
Right.
So the birds make it back to their safe house. They bring in the rocket red armor, but Huntress figures out that one of the guys that is there, because of the tattoo that he has, and they tease it in a couple panels before Huntress figures it out, that he has a tattoo across his forehead, which they only give to prisoners in Russia who have who are getting life without the possibility of parole, right? So obviously Huntress is like, this guy's up to no good. Spy Smasher comes in, is like, nope, we're sticking to the plan. We're giving it to them, and then we're getting out of here. So we got a bit of a standoff between Spy Smasher and the rest of the birds through Huntress. And then the Secret Six show up outside, and they've got the carcass of Hawkgirl over their shoulder, and they've pretty much got the birds surrounded. Yeah,
Joe, that last full page spread of them at the door waiting for them, and like you said, just knockout with that limp body over. Like, Nicola Scott understands anatomy, like totally gets it. With like Harley Quinn doing the handstand on Deadshot's shoulders, I'm like, this shot is amazing. And if anybody wants to donate this to my collection, I would gladly take it.
I saw Nicola Scott was tweeting out earlier that she's selling off pages of stuff today. I don't know if I highly doubt that this is still in her collection. No. I'm sure a very wealthy collector picked this one up and quickly. Yeah.
Because I remember when Joe, I don't know if you know this, I knew her actual webpage that she sold stuff. The only thing she had left of Secret Six was when she was doing the ongoing later on.
Right.
And there was a couple, and and nothing against her, like for the prices, but the prices were definitely affordable. Do you know what killed it for me buying any pages?
Shipping, because she's in Australia.
Yes. Yeah. That the shipping was almost more than the pages.
Yeah. And we kind of breezed through the issue, but again, like I said, it's setting things up. There's a lot going on, and like we don't want to like dwell too much on it, but the idea is that the people are after Ice because she's a princess and
Otis maybe.
Right. And they readjusted the rocket red armor to kind of keep her alive and maybe bring her back to life in the process. Or maybe she had the power to do that all along. Right. Not that it matters, but the general guy who's trying to revitalize, bring back Rasputin or whatever, is sending a group of Rocket Reds after the whole crew. So I have a feeling in the next issue, everyone's going to team up to stop the Rocket Reds that this guy is sending over, right?
I miss the days when Russia was our enemy, like proper. Like the Cold War, not this stuff now, you know, not this with the radiation poisoning. I'm not for that. Mm-hmm. But the good old days of Rocket Reds versus superheroes, it was a clean line, Joe, and I understood it. Never trust a Russian, as my family used to say.
Oh, my goodness. So next week we'll be reading issue 106 of Birds of Prey.
Yes.
Yeah. And Todd, I would be remiss to mention, after a lengthy hiatus, it is the return of Todd's Art Attack.
It is. And David sent in my first John Constantine from the incredible Aaron Campbell from the current Dead in America run. Massive Constantine fan, had to get it with a Swampy cameo. Checks all the boxes. Coat, Swampy. The balloons on the printed page made it more special. Joe, I'm a John Constantine fan, and that is like what John Constantine art is supposed to look like, not when they brought him into like the DC universe proper and he was part of like what was Justice League Dark. No, this is him doing all the crafty, creepy things that Constantine is supposed to do. Once again, wants to send those my way, I'm down with it.
And heavy inks on the page when he said that this is from the current run.
Mm-hmm.
Like, outside of this kind of sort of looking modern, if you told me that this was from the 90s run or a 2000s run, the fact that it's on the old school pages and not like digital,
right?
Like this, like if this is from the current run, like so much about this just takes me back.
Mm-hmm. Very like to the Leonardo Manco run. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, for sure.
Just a lot of line work and stuff like that. And I do love and it's on Joe. It's not on Black Label paper. It's on DC Vertigo paper.
Oh my goodness! I would take a bunch of laying around DC Vertigo blue paper just to have it. You know, because eventually they're going to run out, and it's going to switch over to DC Black Label paper.
I don't even know if they do like paper with letterhead anymore.
Yeah.
Like they just give. I don't know. I'll have to ask Tom. Do you know what I do have though? And I tweeted it out a while back. Is Tom gave me all his cross-gen paper.
Oh yeah,
like from the defunct cross-gen company.
Sure.
He's like, oh, like we were at the shop one day, and the retailer had a bunch of Tom's art that he would put up on eBay or sell every once in a while. And Tom was like, okay, I'm selling more from my house kind of deal. And I want to go through my pages to see what I have. Let's pull about, like they had art drawers like at the shop and everything. And he pulls it out. And so he's putting it in FedEx boxes to take home. He's like, oh, I'm just going to throw this out. And I'm like, what is it? And he's like, blank cross-gen paper. It has the lines where you're supposed to be in for the printing, and it says cross-gen across the top. And I'm like, I will take those, good sir. If you're throwing them out, there's no way. And I said, 2, you're not leaving them here for Beckie either. I'm taking these. She's not drawing any cross-gen commissions on these, I said. These are the old Toddsters.
And you use them to mop up spills now.
I do. Couple of Ditko Spider-Man pages too. I used.
Oh my goodness! So talking about urban legends about that. So cross-gen, wasn't it started by like this eccentric millionaire or billionaire?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Mark Waid had to be telling the story on a podcast somewhere where like people were like not getting paid or whatever it was, and were late on payments, and there was somebody like Mark Waid. Didn't have it happen to him, but like the story was told to him by one of the other people that working on a cross-gen book that they were at the guy's house for a party and they brought up not being paid, and the guy just went and took one of the pieces of art off his wall and handed it to the person and said this should more than cover it.
Right. It wasn't like a cross-gen page. It was like, here's a Kirby FF page.
Yeah.
Like, well, that's how he got a lot of the art. From what I understand, that's how he got a lot of the artists to come to CrossGen. Like they would come to the he'd come to my office and I'll sales pitch you. And he'd be like, "Oh, that's beautiful art. Take it with you. Take that one right there. You want that one? Yeah, go right ahead." And when the famous story is when they had the big like dinner for all the artists, and I think it was George Perez. They're all sitting around the table, and they knew this guy had a big checkbook. And they're like, I'm building this company and we're doing this. And, I have the money and the fortune to back this. And we're going to do, big thing. And they said George Perez was getting up from the table to leave. Well, like the other creators, and he leans in, he's got a big fortune. He goes, we'll take care of that. And he left. Like, we'll take care of that kind of a deal. And I guess they got whatever they could get. And I'm like more than happy for them. And I feel like me having those cross-gen pages, I feel a part of it, Joe.
And to paraphrase one of the greatest lines from one of the worst people in all of sports and entertainment, Todd, how do you make a small fortune in comics?
How?
Start with a large one.
Oh, boy. Is that a Jerry quote?
No.
Okay.
It's a corny guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Phil's friend. Sits in the chair and everything. Thank you very much, David, for sharing your page with us. And if you are going to a convention this year, or you yourself are a burgeoning artist, or you yourself are paying the exorbitant rates to have pages shipped from Australia to you, make sure to tag Todd's Art Attack, share them on social media, and we'll share them with our listener base and the rest of the world.
Cool beans.
Before we get into our plugs, I would be remiss to mention one of Todd's special pet projects. The Indiegogo for making Megaforce is still alive and kicking. They bumped things up another 5% from their goal from last week. They're almost there. You could be like me, who put their money where their mouth is, bought a $5 thumb kiss right up front on day one. Or you could be like Todd, who's going to keep waiting to see what the stretch goals are, and then I'll have to remind him, and then he'll have forgotten to fund it. So,
hush your mouth, Joe. How dare you, good sir?
No, I tease. I kid because I love. But I have the link to it in the show notes. And I made a couple years back when we did 6 never seen movies. I had never seen Megaforce. That was Todd's coup de grace to make me watch at the end of everything. And it was a delightful romp, an enjoyable slice of 80s cheese. If you've never seen it yourself, do yourself a favor. Check it out. You'll have a blast with it. And this is there's a documentary about the making of it, but
Right.
our Patreon episode is currently available for everyone. You can go check it out. The link will be in the show notes with this and After Dark when it goes out later this week. So if you never listened to it and you want to enjoy Todd and myself, if you want to enjoy Todd enjoying me talking about Megaforce, you now can.
I'll tell you, with this 6 never seen movies, if Joe won't go to Megaforce had to come to Joe.
There you go. Oh my goodness. So TeePublic sale this week. You can get shirts and stickers and cell phone covers and all sorts of stuff with our fancy logos on them. 35% off and stuff inspired by this show and After Dark, soon to be named Network. Add-ons with wrestling, Final Wrestling Place, bunch of shows on the network have their store affiliated with us. And like I said, 35% off starting now as you're listening to this. So definitely that's a way to help us out. Another way to help us out is to make any and all of your eBay purchases through our affiliate link. This page contains affiliate links for eBay. We may receive a small commission on purchases you make. You can use the affiliate link anytime you want to buy anything on eBay and support us at the same time.
Yeah.
But the best way to support us, of course, would be to sign up for our Patreon, patreon.com/longboxheroes. For as little as $1 a month, you are going to get 2 bonus shows a month from Todd and myself. One is Previewing the Past, where we look at 30 years ago, this month's previews catalog. We're hot off the heels of recording April of 1994, just this past week. Also, Comic Book Oddities, where we're looking at some of the lesser-known off-kilter, canceled TV pilots, pre-Marvel Cinematic Universe stuff that's out there. And so we're fresh off of Nightman?
Yes.
Right. And again, I need to take better notes for myself. We're fresh off Nightman from March because we did Madam Web in February.
Right, because you demanded it.
Right. And this month we'll be watching another 80s classic film. Again, gets a little bit of a bad reputation. I remember watching it as a kid and enjoying it. Will that same thing hold true 40 years later when we watch the Christopher Reeve, Richard Pryor vehicle, Superman 3?
Right. I was hoping it was Gene Wilder as Superman, but it wasn't.
No, that was going to be Power Man and Iron Fist, remember?
Oh, I would have watched. Oh, this is the clean show. Be careful, Todd.
Yeah, be careful. And again, at the $5 level, you're going to get those 2 bonus shows 2 weeks before everyone else. You're going to get Longbox Heroes After Dark 2 days before everyone else, so you can listen to the shows in the correct listening order. And no matter what level you're at for the Patreon, you're going to get the full scans of the previews catalogs that we talk about on Previewing the Past. High quality, expertly done scans of those previews catalogs. Still got my eyes peeled on that one. And I got 2 years to worry about it, but it's still haunting me.
Oh, it haunts me every night.
Todd, it haunts me every day. But that's it. That's all we got. We got no TV. We got no movies. We got no nothing.
Right. It was a short show.
I don't know. I don't look at the clock while we're recording, but it was a fun show, and that's the most important thing. And I'm glad you all came along on the ride with us. This was episode 705 of Longbox Heroes. For Todd, this is Joe saying thanks for listening, and we'll see y'all here next week.
Remember, be a faucet, not a drain.
You're listening to the soon-to-be-named network, the Lamborghini of podcast networks.
The Rob is a Longbox hero. The Rob is a Longbox hero. He gives us five stars.